Congratulations, Dallas Zoo, on another record-setting year. Here on the Wildside, we have been honored to share your successes, not only in the Zooborns category, but also opening new facilities like the Simmons Hippo Outpost. We are so excited for all the conservation and amazing guest connections you're making in Dallas, Texas. Welcome everyone to another edition of the Wildside, right here on Zoo Nation TV, coming to you live from the great outdoors, the Zoo Nation TV studios. We've got a lot of amazing stories of animals this week, right here on the Wildside. But first, let's start off this episode like we do every episode, welcoming new members to the zoo world in this week's Zooborns.
Baby, 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 baby.
Now, you don't hear a lot about shark breeding taking place, but look at this little baby zebra shark that just hatched out with some assistance at Laurel Park in Spain. Of course, sharks are facing a huge threat from we, the people, with over 100 million sharks being killed each and every year. This is an amazing milestone for this world-class facility. Big news out of Calgary, Alberta, Canada. In an effort to bolster the wild population, the first greater sage grouse to reproduce in Canada in human care has happened, and it happened at the Calgary Zoo. Now, the breeding and hatching of the sage grouse at its Devon Wildlife Conservation Center marks a significant milestone for these highly endangered birds. This year marked the first time on-site breeding and reproduction of the greater sage grouse was successful. They currently have 8 hens, 6 males, and 50 juveniles thriving at the conservation center. Now, the sage grouse is facing some pretty big obstacles in the natural environment. It's listed as endangered under the Species and At-Risk Act in Canada, with fewer than 400 of the birds left in the wild. Now, the greater sage grouse is threatened by habitat destruction and human development. There are only 5 known areas where these birds are remaining in Canada, and 2 are in Saskatchewan, and 3 are in Alberta.
Well, this is a pretty exciting day. We've had a baby rhino was born October 5th. It's up with mom. It looks good. It's doing good. Looks strong. Actually, our staff got to see the animal being born, which doesn't happen very often. And it was standing up within about a half hour, and within a couple hours we saw it nurse and felt really comfortable with everything for the evening. It's great because it was able to be born out here in pasture with the rest of the family. And so its older brother, who's about 3 years old, is hanging out there with it and around mom. And so he gets to learn how to behave around babies and is minding his rhino manners, and his mom's making sure he does that. The actually really other exciting thing about this is our second 5th generation baby out here. And that means this animal's great-great-great-great-grandparents were the ones that came from Africa. And the Wilds is the only place that has 4th and 5th generation animals out of the original animals that came from the wild. And that's exciting, and it's important because there's not very many, there really aren't any other rhinos of the later generations that are producing offspring right now, and we've been lucky that our group here has. And we think it has to do with being out here in these wide open spaces, out on pasture, natural social group, the kind of really unique things that the Wilds has to offer for this group we think are really important for the success of this program. The southern white rhino is officially threatened, and the rest of the rhino species out there are all endangered. And they're endangered because people hunt them for their horns. And it's really one of the greatest tragedies, the number of rhinos that are killed for their horns all the time. We're very concerned about that. We hope that people that come out here to the wilds and see our white rhinos and our greater one-horn rhinos really appreciate these animals and you know, maybe get involved and start looking at the International Rhino Foundation, some of the other groups that are actively working to help conserve rhinos in the wild. The Wilds and the Columbus Zoo support these programs as well. We want to make sure that they're actively helping to conserve these rhinos and keep them from disappearing. We almost lost them within the past 100 years, and it's only because of great conservation work and then insurance policies like the one we have here with our program here that have made sure these rhinos have been here for people to see.
That was super interesting. Well, that brings us to this week's top 5, and this week the top 5 polar bear habitats around the world. Now, these habitats were ranked based on their educational effectiveness and the creativity in which their education content is given to the guests. The size of the exhibit, the realism of the exhibit, and the innovation put into making that habitat. So let's check out the top 5 chilling polar bear habitats around the world. Coming in at number 5 is the Arctic Passage at the Henry Vilas Zoo in Madison, Wisconsin. Continuing with the theme of sustainable exhibits, Arctic Passage is an eco-friendly home to polar and grizzly bears. Now, this whole exhibit runs on solar energy, sourcing water from the rain. Now, the zoo has reduced its carbon footprint and saves over 2 million gallons of water each and every year. Now, this immersive exhibit opened in 2014 and was the largest project in the zoo's history, coming in at over 1.7 acres. Now, the zoo describes this exhibit as naturalistic, large, and enriching. Now, this is both enriching for the animals and the guests. Now, this area includes viewing windows, a pool, climbing areas, and plenty of room for running and playing. Now, the most unique feature is the Glacier Grill, which is a built-in glass exhibit where visitors can have lunch while getting face-to-face with the animals. It's the only restaurant in the United States where you can go nose to nose with polar bears. Coming in at number 4 is Rocky Shores in the North Carolina Zoo in Asheboro, North Carolina. Designed to look like a sea cliff of the Arctic, this natural-looking exhibit includes an educational viewing area called the Ice Cave, complete with large viewing windows, educational signage, and interactive tools. Among the tools are videos, games, touchscreen activities, moving signage, and realistic ice walls. For the bears, there's a pool, rocky areas, dens, and grassy patches. This exhibit is truly leading the way in zoo education and features some of the most state-of-the-art education through technology in the zoological field. Our number 3 exhibit is the Polar Bear Point at the St. Louis Zoo in St. Louis, Missouri. Now, this opened in 2015 and cost over $16 million. Polar Bear Point is a breathtaking 40,000 square foot exhibit, complete with an underwater viewing cave with views all around you. Now, this is a 50,000 gallon pool, and several massive viewing areas of all points of the exhibit are accessible. The enclosure is designed to feature all parts of the polar bear's natural habitat, including the sea, the coast, and the tundra. Along the edge of the coast and the tundra are massive viewing panels, spanning nearly 50 feet each. A mesh door at the tundra gives visitors an amazing look at the bears during husbandry sessions. There are also over 2,600 square feet of space off the exhibit at the Care Center, which is used for holding, husbandry, veterinary procedures, and breeding. And to make the visitor experience even more realistic, the entire area is themed to look like native Alaskan village, which also educates the human interaction with bears in the wild. Coming in at number 2 is the Polar Frontier at the Columbus Zoo and Aquarium. Modeled to look like an abandoned mining town, this larger-than-life exhibit has one of the largest open yard areas of this list at 1.3 acres. Now, it opened in 2009. The project cost around $20 million and includes 2 fish-filled exhibit pools with a total of 167,000 gallons, an interactive playground for visitors, a grill, and a battle ice bear outpost. The outpost is a building filled with educational technology, bear-related activities, and signage. Continuing with the green exhibit theme, Polar Frontier uses geothermal heating, repurposed doors and decor, and reuses and refilters all the exhibit water. The underwater viewing area features a partial glass ceiling, allowing visitors to gain a unique perspective of the bears. As for the animal enrichment, there are various smell holes, digging pits, and fallen trees to examine. This enormous enclosure also includes rocks, shrubs, and high and low terrain for climbing and exploring. Coming in at number 1 is Journey to Churchill at the Assiniboine Park Zoo in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. The number 1 polar bear exhibit in the world is unlike anything you've ever seen anywhere else, and it's truly remarkable. To start, there's a large pavilion with seating for husbandry session viewing. The front wall of the structure has a floor-to-ceiling viewing windows and a mesh square where keepers conduct the session. There's also a theater dome where educational movies are played on the ceiling above the guests, as well as a children's playground with a slide that comes out of an oversized polar bear's mouth. Guests can access the latest in zoo and educational technology at the Interactive Interpretive Center. The educational opportunities are endless throughout the entire exhibit and are more impressive. The land portion of the exhibit is so large it appears to stretch endlessly beyond the horizon. On land, there is a natural expanse of trees, shrubs, rocks, and logs. It truly looks like a piece of wild land. The piece de resistance, as the Canadian French would say, of the exhibit is the underwater viewing area, the only viewing of its kind where polar bears are right above you like this. Journey to Churchill showcases an underwater tunnel, giving visitors the chance of a lifetime to feel like they're swimming with the largest terrestrial carnivores on the planet. This exhibit should be at the top of everyone's bucket list to check out. I cannot wait to visit all of those polar bear exhibits because they all look amazing. Now, for a full list of the top 10 polar bear exhibits voted on by the Zoo Nation writing staff, you can go to zoonation.org or share our top 10 articles right here on Facebook. Now, last week we discussed in depth the Vaquita CPR program. There's been 7 days since the program got underway, and on Thursday, the rescue team in Mexico was able to collect its very first vaquita. Take a look at this. This is a 6-month-old vaquita calf, of course, rescued in the northern Gulf of California. The calf was taken to the sea sanctuary we showed you last week, where it was under observation by veterinarians and biologists. After some strict observation moments, they noticed that the animal was exhibiting signs of stress, and in cetaceans, that can be fatal. So the team made the tough decision to re-release this highly endangered porpoise into the natural environment. They took it back to where they first found it, in an area with known vaquita sightings, and released the animal. Before releasing, they were able to take some very key biological samples, tissue samples among other samples like DNA samples, and they can send these samples to areas like the Frozen Zoo in San Diego so that we can better understand these animals and their genetic code. Above all else, the Vaquita CPR team this week learned that their capture process and rescue process is extremely successful. Now, there are less than 30 of these animals left, and each life is valuable, so the veterinarians and the biologists are going to take the perfect, most precise steps to ensure this species' survival. But above all else, this is the first vaquita to ever be captured this way. And hopefully, this process that they're learning every day out there, groundbreaking research, can help save this species from extinction. Be sure to follow this story on zoonation.org or just check in here on the Wildside, as we will give you updates as we get them. As soon as we know, you will know. Well, that wraps up this week's episode of The Wildside right here on Zoo Nation TV. If you have a comment you'd like to leave, please leave it in the section below. Also, like our post, share this video with all your friends and family, all your followers. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and subscribe to us on YouTube. Make sure you click that notifications button. Remember, folks, as this next week trails on, to take care of one another, take care of the environment, and always remember, conservation rules.